4 and 3. Okay. 4 and 3, that was our consensus. My list is Brooklyn next, then you can say okay. Alright, so I need everyone's attention. Okay, so for number 3, to solve this for b, we would multiply both sides by b. To get n by itself right now, and then divide both sides by b. Questions there?
Why aren't we allowed to multiply n?
Because that wouldn't get b by itself. You would just square n.
Why would I square n?
What's 2 times 2? That's the same thing as saying m times n. Okay. For this one, this is like the delta math ones, where you might have 2 of the same variable. The door is open. Where we're going to take that variable out, so we go ahead, and then put whatever's left, like we're dividing, but not because it's still there. So this would be 1, and then plus r. 1. And then to get c by itself, divide by 1 plus r on both sides. So that cancels, leaving just p over 1 plus r.
Where'd you get the 1?
C divided by c is 1. Other questions? Okay, look at your course. Mahar, did you have a question? Okay. Look at your course calendar. I'm going to point out some important things. 1 being we're starting a new unit. 2, this new unit and everything on this, because if you look on the back, our flex day is right before the end of the quarter. Everything on this unit is going on the next quarter. So besides this test and 1 more formative, if you retake, whatever your grade is will be whatever your grade is. Besides this 1 more formative, finishing your test and retake. Questions about that?
Wait, that'll be your grade for the report.
So this will be on next quarter. Okay. Also, notice that there are 2 quizzes, 1 test, and on the back there's a project. So we're going to go through 3 of the learning targets. We're going to quiz, we're going to test. Then we're going to do the last learning target, quiz, and then do a project. So keep all of those things in mind. Your Delta Math are up there. Starting next week is when those will happen. Questions on any of that?
When was recorded then?
The 31st. Okay, we're going to very briefly, very quickly start notes, but not get very far. What? Okay, so these learning targets are basically how to write equations in different formats, from different things, graphs, points, other things. Isaac, do me a favor, minimize that, please. So we're going to do a few of these. The first part, writing equation from a graph. To do this, we have to identify the slope and the y-intercept. Once we have those 2 things, we're going to write this in slope-intercept form, which is what? Y equals mx plus b. So in these examples, the first two, you're given a M line and a B line and then the equation, and then the rest don't have that. But you can keep writing that if you so choose. I would say find the y-intercept first is a little blurry, so you may want to look up here. But where does that line cross the y-axis? -3. And then there's another point right here. If I were to count that slope, what is that slope? 3/1, which simplifies to 3. So then we would write that as an equation. Y equals 3x minus 3. Questions on that? Let's try example 2. What is that y-intercept? 2. And then there is another point right here. What is that slope? -3/2. So what would that equation look like? -3/2x plus 2. Good. Question so far? This is probably the second easiest thing we'll do this entire year. We'll do one more. What's the y-intercept for number 3? 2. I'll write that off to the side. You don't have to do that, but if it helps you, do that. Then there is another point right on the arrow. What is that slope? Here to here. 2/5. So then what is that equation? X plus 2. Layla, you had a question.
Oh, I thought we were starting from the point on the y and going down.
Doesn't matter. So if I went down and left, a down and a left make a negative over a negative, which is still positive. So it doesn't matter.
Oh, okay.
Of the other ones up here, are there any others we want to see do go over?
Number 4.
Sure. What is that y-intercept? +1. What about that slope? Which simplifies to just -3. So what is that equation? +1. Okay. Look on the back. Questions that we want to see do go over on the back. 13 and 14. 13 and 14. Okay. Let's start at 11, and then we'll do 13 and 14. And then we'll do one last thing, and then we'll be done. So 11, what is that y-intercept? 0. And then what is that slope? I heard negative 0/3, which simplifies to -1. So when we write that equation, what would that look like? -1x. And you could just leave it like that, or put the +0, either or. For 13, we have an equation, we just have to match the graph. So we can eliminate one of these, or two of these will not have a y-intercept of -2. Which ones do not have that y-intercept? A and B. So for C and D, which of these two have a slope of 1/3? D. And even without counting, I can say that this is less steep and this is steeper, so the less steep one has to be my answer. Going back to our transformation ones. Questions there before we do 14? In 14, now we have a graph and we have to figure out which one of these equations is it. Well, the y-intercept is the same. The slopes are different. This is a negative slope. So which of these could I eliminate? A and B. And then is this slope -2 or -1/2? -2, because it's steeper. And if we count it, we're going down to the right one. So C. Yes. When he goes back, yes. Okay. Last thing. So previously we talked about the slopes of horizontal and vertical lines. We talked about how to graph said lines, but now we're going to learn how to write the equations for those lines. So I'm bringing back our boys up. Horizontal lines have 0 slope and are y equals. Vertical lines have undefined slope and are x equals. If you want to write that, you can. So if we have some vertical line, that's going to be an x equals. And we're going to look at where does that line cross the x-axis. Where does that cross the x-axis? 3. So this would be x equals 3. For our horizontal line, because it's horizontal, that's going to be a y equals. Where does that cross the y-axis? -1. So y equals -1. Try 1 through 6 for the country. Number 3, the equation, the line is at the bottom. And for number 5, the line is on the y-axis. So we should only have an x equals or a y equals for each one, not both.
So do you choose X or Y?
Based on what type did you write this down already? Because we're doing those. Check your answers with mine. Questions about any of those? Okay, that's all we're doing today.